the Sixers made an interesting decision. Now, in fairness, we all knew going into Wednesday night, the Sixers had realistically 2 or 3 options available to them at number 3. We knew for a fact Cooper Flagg was going number 1 overall. We knew for a fact Dylan Harper was going to go number 2 overall to San Antonio. But the question was, what were the Sixers going to do at 3? And as much as I hate the idea of trading down from 3, just as much as I hate the idea of trading down from 6 on Friday in the NHL draft if the Flyers choose to do that, if you're recouping valuable assets and you feel like that group, that next tier, is all essentially the same and that there are 5 or 6 players, and if you move back enough, you're still going to get one of them, and you'd be happy with that, then fine, a trade back's okay. There were rumors leading up to Wednesday night that the Sixers were looking to move back. Ultimately, it didn't happen. Ace Bailey threw out the first pitch at the Mets game the other night. There were some fans who yelled at him, "Go to the Sixers, go to the Sixers." He stopped where he was walking, pivoted very quickly, and practically ran the other way. So he's allergic to Philadelphia, it seems. He is going to get the shit boot out of him the one time a year that his now drafted team plays in Philadelphia. But he didn't want to come to Philadelphia. There was the report that he was supposed to come to Philadelphia for a workout, for a meeting. There were rumors that he wanted assurances that the Sixers were 100% going to draft him, a guarantee they would draft him at number 3 in order for him to fulfill that obligation of coming to Philadelphia, gracing them with his presence, working out for them, going through the meeting. Because, of course, you only do that if you're a schmuck, right? Like, who goes on meetings? Who would do such a thing? Why would one do such a thing? So it came out that Ace Bailey canceled his meeting with Philadelphia, canceled the workout. They weren't willing to commit to him. That's fine. I don't care. What I do care about are the optics of that. And for a Sixers team that has run itself into so many negative scenarios in recent years, the last thing they could do is call him on his bullshit game. The Sixers could have drafted Ace Bailey at number 3. They could have chosen Ace Bailey with the belief that, you know what, if you want to play in the NBA, you're going to play here or we're going to ice you out. Seems like a bit of a gamble. Especially seems like a gamble for a guy in Daryl Morey who, while he, for whatever reason, still has the belief of ownership, probably can't afford to draft a guy who ultimately chooses not to play here. They could have called Ace Bailey on his bullshit, and they could have used him as a distressed asset and held him over some teams who wanted to trade up to number 3, but now that he's off the board, and maybe some teams thought, oh, the Sixers are going to pass on him, we'll have a conversation about moving up to 4, moving up to 5. If you draft the player, well, then all of a sudden the teams that were interested in Ace Bailey know we have to meet asking demands if we want the player. I thought that's what the Sixers were going to do. I thought that ultimately it was unlikely they were going to trade back before they were on the clock. I thought that at number 3 there was a good chance the Sixers would take him and they would flip him by the time the night was over for a bevy of picks or assets because a team would get desperate from down farther in the draft order and they would go up and they'd get their guy. I didn't actually think the Sixers would draft Ace Bailey and keep him and expect him to play. Now, Ace Bailey is a really talented player. And as you guys know, I'm very honest, I'm very fair about evaluating talent. It's not like I watched a shit ton of Rutgers games this year. I did not. I could not, prior to like a week or two ago, have told you much about the strengths and weaknesses of a VJ Edgecombe versus a Dylan Harper versus a Ace Bailey versus a Trey Johnson. Like, I couldn't have done it, okay? But leading up to the draft, I started getting a little bit of a better education on these guys. And Bailey has this unlimited potential. There are the comparisons to Kevin Durant. God knows if he'll ever live up to any of them or if he'll be a flop. Remember, there was a time that Brandon Ingram was also compared to Kevin Durant. It doesn't mean that Ace Bailey isn't going to be a good player. It doesn't mean he doesn't have the potential to be an all-star, to be a franchise cornerstone, to be a future Hall of Famer. He might. We have no idea. But when you have a player who flat out does not want to go to your team, when you have a player who has no interest in meeting with your brass, who has no interest in working out for your team, who has no interest in meeting you at a reasonable level, like we're not even talking meeting in the middle, like meeting you at like a reasonable level that's expected of any draft pick, you're kind of in a lose-lose, right? Like, because if the Sixers take Bailey and he chooses not to play here, it's a disaster class if he ultimately like tries to sit out, right? Because then it is a distressed asset in the bad way. Because then it's very well known that, like, oh, the Sixers have to get rid of him. So ultimately, they pass. And we'll get to the guy that they drafted in a second because he seems incredible. Seems like an incredible human being. But I want to get to this. So Ace Bailey's falling. And on the same day of the NBA draft, word came out that Bailey was hoping, crossing his fingers and his Tootsie Toes, that he was going to get past Utah. Did not want to go play in Utah. Would have been happy going to Brooklyn. Would have been happy going to Washington. Would have been happy going to, I forget the third team. It wasn't Charlotte. There was another team that he was willing to go to. Utah takes him. Danny Ainge pulls a total, I can't even call it a sleaze move. Like, it's a good move. It's a really good talent player. Like, Ace Bailey's a good player. But Danny Ainge goes and gets him. And so then the thought is immediately, oh, Danny Ainge is going to flip him for assets by the end of the night. It didn't happen. So now you have Ace Bailey gets drafted by Utah, where he reportedly did not want to play, was willing to forego a lot of money as a top 3 pick, even as a top 5 pick, to fall to a team that he really wanted to go play for. And he ultimately ends up in Utah. He doesn't end up in Philadelphia, playing alongside Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, sometimes Paul George, sometimes Joel Embiid, on a team that, like, in fairness, I know that I said the Sixers would be a top 4 team next year. We're going to take a look at the Eastern Conference here in a second. But, like, this is a team that's going to make the playoffs. Even if Embiid and or Paul George miss time, they're going to make the playoffs because the East, that was already bad last year, is going to be worse. Instead of contributing to that team, instead of being probably the best wing on that team, or the chance of being the best wing on the team, he's going to go play in Utah. Good luck, Ace Bailey. I hope it was worth it. Now, who's the guy that the Sixers ultimately took? They took a hell of a guy. And I want to go over here really quick. Jay Grevy says, am I the only one that didn't think Bailey was worth the hype even before his attitude and snubbing workouts came out? And he says, what kind of elite shooter next KD shoots 67% from the charity stripe? It's fair. I will say this, okay? The frame, the 6'7" frame, there are elements of his ability to make unbelievably difficult shots that remind you of a young Kevin Durant. I'm not sold that he's going to be that guy. I would be, again, off of very limited exposure to Ace Bailey's game. I think that by the time it's all said and done, he probably is more Brandon Ingram than Kevin Durant. Somebody 10 or 15 years from now can clip this show and throw it back on me on whatever platform we're all using at that point. But, like, I think he's more Brandon Ingram level than he's Kevin Durant level. He's got to prove it. And he'll have the opportunity in Utah. It's not like Utah's, beating down the doors. Saw this one too. Jake Grevy says, Elliott Shore Parks spouting off on Twitter that Bailey's the next Durant. In what world? Bailey is 6'7". His college career wasn't even comparable to KD. KD is a 7-foot anomaly. ESP does what ESP does, man. Like, he has figured out how to get you guys worked up on social media. That's it. Like, I think it's really simple. I don't actually know how much of the stuff that he puts out he believes in. Maybe he does. A lot of it to me is just like engagement, and like everybody goes for it, and so it works. I want to go to the guy that the Sixers did draft. Incredible. I mean, like, we're talking about if there is a way to make a better first impression as a draft pick in any league, if there is a better example of that than what we saw from VJ Edgecombe, I don't know what it would be. I honestly have no idea. This guy was incredible. Star-making performance. Now, I was watching the ESPN feed where, was it Monica McNutt, I think, was the one who interviewed him and his mom and his brother. His brother said, like, he saw this vision way before I did, way before anybody in our family did. The mom was reduced to tears. She's like crying for a minute and a half while this is all going on. Eventually, she just says how proud she is of him. He talks about the fact that, like, they had nothing. And they talked about it on the panel that, he talked about how playing in the Bahamas, growing up, playing on concrete, like how it hardened him as a player. And I want you to hear, because not everybody saw the NBA TV interview, but I just want to give you a glimpse into the humanity. Now, I will mention the fact that, like, the thing that blew me away, again, I don't spend a lot of time watching these guys leading up to the draft. On the panel, they're talking about the fact that this guy, this young kid who's going to come in and contribute in some way to the Sixers, he used his NIL money to set up a fund to pay for the tuition of kids at the school that he went to in the Bahamas. A young kid, an NBA draft pick, used his NIL money to set up a tuition fund to pay for kids to go to school in the Bahamas. Think about that. Juxtapose that versus the entitlement of Ace Bailey not feeling the need to work out for teams, not feeling the need to even meet with a team that had a top 3 pick. Now, you could just say on the surface, the talent and the upside, maybe it is higher with Ace Bailey. I'd rather have the good human being who also has athleticism where he can jump out of the gym, is working on a shot that isn't broken. It's not perfect, but it's certainly not broken, and has a good bit of humanity in him. I want you to hear from this guy because to me, this is the most impressive part of the night. And this is why sometimes, not always, sometimes the humanity ultimately wins out over what people view as the upside. I want you to hear from this guy because this is the kind of thing that like warms your heart.
Sorry, but man, that's what I'm here for, man. I know you see the emotions on my mama's face. She worked too hard, man. She worked too hard, especially for me, my brother, my little sisters, and my little brother. So, man, I'm just wanting to return the favor for her, man.
You said you saw the emotions on your mom's face.
Yeah.
I know that they always go to this. I know that like in draft processes with every league, your family's typically around, whether you're in person or you're remote and they show you on the video. But like seeing that kind of relief, that excitement, that joy of your child getting selected is something that like so few people get to experience. And then you get to talk about the fact that this guy, his mom is so proud and he feels like he's finally giving back for all the sacrifices she made.
What were the moments you remember most about just the way your mom poured into you throughout your life and your career?
Man, them long nights, I'm telling you, I lived off a generator. I ain't had no electricity. I lived off a generator for 7 years.
Again, let's juxtapose that versus entitlement. And we won't even just limit it to Ace Bailey. We won't just limit it to, again, Ace Bailey refusing to take workouts and doesn't want to meet with teams and felt like he maybe should have been the number 1 overall pick in the draft, wouldn't meet with the Sixers who had the number 3 pick. Juxtapose that versus this guy who's talking about living off a generator in the Bahamas for 7 years. No electricity, running off a generator for 7 years. And then again, we talk about the sacrifices that his mom and family made for him to be able to reach this goal. All right, let's keep going.
Man, seeing what she had to go through to feed us, man, it's crazy. It's crazy, but I don't even know, man. My mind everywhere right now, man.
It's okay that
I love emotion. I love raw emotion. If you are a fan of sports, if you are a fan of just people being decent human beings, you listen to that one little segment. If that doesn't make you immediately root for that young man, if that doesn't make you at least sit back and go, you know what? I think that the Sixers might have been better going for Trey Johnson. They might have been better taking Ace Bailey and seeing if watching the chips fall where they may. If that kind of clip doesn't hit you on a human level, I don't know what your heart and your humanity look like. That's the kind of guy that you can root for. You pair that together with an incredibly bubbly personality in Jared McCain. You combine that with the smile that lights up the room in Tyrese Maxey. Yeah, you got 3 guards. You want to throw Grimes in there and question the rotation? Fine. Have at it. I'd rather go into a season knowing that there's at least a young nucleus of a team that has positivity, that has good character. That kind of shit matters. It doesn't necessarily override when you are down on talent like 3x to your opponent, right? But when you have decent human beings playing on your team, when you have guys who are willing to pick each other up, who have been through struggles like this guy was, I will back that player every time. If he has a rough rookie season, you know what you won't find me doing on this show? Shitting all over a young rookie. He's now bought himself some social emotional equity with me and probably with this fan base.